Israel's skin cancer rate, second highest in the world. The skin cancer rate in Israel is among the highest in the world, the Israel Cancer Association report. The source is from about 20 years ago, and supposedly they might not currently be the highest because they had to take extreme measures to combat it. They had to tell their people to stay indoors at the hottest times of the day, stop sunbathing, and literally slather themselves in sunscreen. Would you have to do that if you were indigenous to the Middle East? No, you wouldn't. You'd be fine.
Israeli researchers say early detection of the most dangerous form of skin cancer is proving to be beneficial. Officials attribute a recent decrease in the number of new cases of melanoma in Israel to their ongoing sun safety campaign. Still, the Jewish state has one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world.
We have immigrant population that came from the former Russia. They have light skin. And they love the sun because they didn't have it. So some of them, when they came, we have to re-educate them. They were coming to the emergency room with burns because, you know, they were like giving themselves completely to the sun without any protection. And we have a lot of others who came, you know, in the 20s and 30s and 50s. They came from the western part of Europe or other parts.
Israel has one of the largest human skin banks in the world. But where does all that skin come from and how do they explain it? On one hand, Israeli medical experts say that the skin bank is used to help burn victims, especially in war and mass casualty situations. Patients with third-degree burns need skin grafts fast, and sometimes that patient's body doesn't have enough skin. The bank stores preserved skin or lab-grown skin. But here's where things get complicated. Critics point out that Israel's organ and tissue donation rate are relatively low due to their religious and cultural beliefs, meaning that there aren't enough voluntary donations to support such a large skin bank. This is Dr. Yehuda Hiss. In the 1990s, he led Israel's main forensic institute, and he admitted that they removed cornea, skin, heart valves, and bones from bodies without family consent. And those bodies would be either Palestinians or foreign workers. This is an absolute fact because the Israeli military admitted it, but said that they stopped in 2000. Now, this opens up accusations for today, that the skin in the bank comes from deceased Palestinians and other foreign workers, not volunteers. Now you tell me, how could the world's largest skin bank be in a country with the lowest amount of donations? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I have done nothing wrong, ever, in my life.
I know this, and I love you.
I love you too, Daddy. Money, please! My money.
כמה אור יש פה?
170 מטר מרובע.
זה נחשב בנק גדול ביחס לעולם?
זה הכי גדול בעולם.
הכי גדול בעולם?
כן.
מה אחוז התרומות ביחס לאנשים בישראל? כלומר, איזה אחוז...
למה צוחקת?
כי זו שאלה מאוד מוזרה. אני לא יכולה להגיד לך, הוא כל כך קטן.
אז שאלה לא מוזרה, תשובה מוזרה.
תשובה מוזרה. לא, התשובה לא מוזרה. משום שלא תורמים כמעט.
היה ידוע שחוץ מכל התפקידים שיש למכון, אז המכון הוא גם מספק איברים לבנק האור של מדינת ישראל, שהוא בעצם היה בנק האור של צה"ל, אבל מחיילים לא לקחו. לא נוגעים, משאירים שלם את החייל, מאוד חשוב, אבל לוקחים מאחרים.
מי?
אז עכשיו השאלה מי, ותדמיינו ממי לוקחים. בתקופות מסוימות לקחו מפלסטינאים, ואחר כך זה היה עולים חדשים, עובדים זרים.
נלקחו רקמות לבנים מגופות שעברו נתיחה, וזה לא היה משנה אם מדובר בתושבי ישראל או עובדים זרים או פלסטינאים. ברוב חללי צה"ל לא גופו נתיחות, מכיוון שלא נתבקשו לבצע נתיחות. ברגע שלא מבצעים נתיחה, לא נלקחות רקמות או איברים.
What'd you say? לא נוגעים, משאירים שלם את החייל, מאוד חשוב, אבל לוקחים מאחרים.
מי?
אז עכשיו השאלה מי, ותדמיינו ממי לוקחים. בתקופות מסוימות לקחו מפלסטינאים, ואחר כך זה היה עולים חדשים, עובדים זרים.
זה נחשב בנק גדול ביחס לעולם?
זה הכי גדול בעולם.
הכי גדול בעולם?
כן.
מה אחוז התרומות ביחס לאנשים בישראל? כלומר, איזה אחוז...
למה צוחקת?
כי זו שאלה מאוד מוזרה. אני לא יכולה להגיד לך, הוא כל כך קטן.
אז שאלה לא מוזרה, תשובה מוזרה.
תשובה מוזרה. לא, התשובה לא מוזרה. משום שלא תורמים.
What you're saying to me makes me want to fight you a little.
Israel's skin cancer rate is the second highest in the world. What? This the shit you're not gonna see on mainstream media, though. This the shit you're not gonna see on the news. Huh? Huh? Look at this. Look at this. Skin cancers, huh, have damaged DNA. Whose DNA? Not ours. Not ours. Look at these causes for skin cancer. One of them, the top one, is what? Unprotected or excessive UV exposure, okay, from sunlight. Now, who the fuck can't be in the sun? Because we could. Now, let me show you something. Let me show you something. Now, let me show you a professor of biology admitting that white people were genetically engineered by extraterrestrials, as well as Arabs and Chinese people. And he admit out his, let me cut this shit off. He admit out his mouth that black people were not able to be genetically engineered because our DNA is protected by melanin. Okay? He said it out his mouth. Out his mouth. Look, let me show you something. Watch the tape. Stop talking to me. Watch the tape. Don't say shit to me. His name is John Biggerstaff. This is a motherfucking professor in cellular biology. Okay? And he's with Danielle Silverman. Okay? Look, listen. Don't say nothing to me. Watch the tape.
Now, if we go back really to the out of Africa idea, you know, I mean...
Pause. And he finna say something that I've been saying. He's talking about why the evolution theory and the out of Africa theory is stupid. Because what he's saying is, for one, the same shit I've been saying. One species can't turn into another species and give it characteristics that it don't have. But for two, what he was saying is, if Africa is the cradle of civilization and all of the animals, food, and resources is there, why the fuck Africa and go to Antarctica or go to the damn north where it's colder at for no fucking reason? Why would you do that? That's stupid. That's like living in a mansion and you got a maid and a motherfucker that cut your grass. You got a goddamn chauffeur and you gonna walk out your mansion to go live in the fucking Marcy projects? Why would you do that? Why would niggas leave voluntarily from being kings and queens to go to where it's cold at, where food don't even grow? Why would you walk out of Egypt and walk into the fucking Caucasoid Mountains? That does not make sense. Even white people is saying that don't make sense. So I'm tired of motherfuckers looking at me just because I'm black and I'm saying the same shit that white professionals are saying. I'm racist. How I'm racist and he not racist, and we are coming to the same scientific conclusion and understanding. Now let's keep it moving. Here we go.
I mean, partly the fact that, you know, the weather, it was lush environment they were in, there wasn't really much incentive for people to go walking thousands of miles to do things. It's more likely, given this scenario and what Nigel hypothesizes, is that really in the same way that I mess with organisms on plates, that these guys were messing with us as a species, really looking for advantageous genetics.
Now he's talking about, you finna see that he's talking about extraterrestrials were messing with them, white people, okay? Looking for genetic sequences that they can manipulate. Now listen. Not
so much racism, as we said, you know, these things are running according to a program. They only care about whether they can mess with our genes more efficiently. And it turns out that the molecule melanin, actually, you know, when we...
Listen what he about to say about melanin. Listen what he about to say. Listen to what he about to say. Listen to what he about to say. Listen what he about to say about melanin. Listen.
Genetics and stuff. One of the ways in which we can do it is to use things like ultraviolet light to actually splice the genes in the cells and actually alter the genetics, or to get things to, you know, things we put in to actually take, so that we can almost microsurgically implant them in the cells. The thing is, if these cells have got a lot of melanin in them, it's a dark pigment, it tends to absorb that light and diffract it and turn it into vibrations, etc. And then the light just doesn't get where it's really supposed to go. And so really...
Pause. Let me explain to some of you that's listening that might can't understand. They use light to slice and splice DNA. But melanin not only is protected, it absorbs light. And it unlocks our DNA. And so extraterrestrials are not able to genetically engineer black people. Okay? And so they created a humanoid species that they can play around with and use them to do their bidding. Okay? Okay. So this is not just some shit I've been saying racist on the internet for 5 years. Nigga, this is known. Well known. So when you motherfuckers say, what are the Freemasons hiding? What's the secret? This is the secret. This is the fucking secret. This is the secret that Freemasons want to hide. The Queen of England want to hide. This is the shit George Bush want to hide. This is the shit that all elite white people do not want you to fucking know.
Israel has one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world, which can only mean one thing. The sun is Hamas. Israeli intelligence captured this photo of the sun terrorizing Israeli citizens with his Islamic UV rays. We have also discovered that the moon is being used as a human shield, so we will be attacking both. Unfortunately, the sun is too hot to occupy. A human being anywhere near the sun would burn to smithereens. So we will be sending American soldiers to do it for us.
Don't matter who did what to who at this point. Fact is, we went to war, and now there ain't no going back. I mean, shit, it's what war is, you know? Once you in it, you in it. If it's a lie, then we fight on that lie. But we gotta fight.
I also think that as a Jewish person, like, I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel my entire life. You know, they never tell you that. Oh, by the way, there were people there. They make it seem like it was just like they're sitting there. It was the doors open.
Hours for the taking.
Like, it literally, they forget to include the fact to every young Jewish person, basically, like, oh, by the way, there were people there. I'm afraid of Jews. I'm 100% afraid of Jews.
Oh,
That's it. It would be nice to live somewhere that was not a part of the Christian apocalyptic prophecy. It is also probably a good idea. It's like, maybe settle somewhere that, you know, the Christians don't think you all have to die in order for the
and then they want us all to go there. They need a certain number of Jews.
They need us to go there so we can die, so the apocalypse.
But that, could you imagine living in Israel? Would you ever go live in Israel?
No, it would be...
I'm the same way, and we're going to piss off a bunch of Jews. It's like, you know, for some reason, my mother, who's not religious or whatever, but her generation, they were kind of hung up on Israel, and they find some comfort in it. And I've been there, and I'm like, I couldn't imagine living here.
No, there are nice parts, and I think you I could imagine at best you are convincing yourself that you are far enough away from a major conflict to not worry about it,
right?
Which is like a terrible thing to convince yourself of. And like, I don't understand. To me, it just seems very like an antiquated thought process. Like, if it is for religious reasons, I don't agree with it because I think religion is silly. If it is for truly the preservation of Jewish people, it makes no sense because, again, you don't keep something you're trying to preserve all in one place, especially when that place has proven to be
volatile,
pretty volatile. You know, I'm trying to keep all these things safe. I'm going to put them in my blender and hope that that's the best place to that'll do it. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
They just want to make sure that you are frightened of your own survival to the point where when you get old enough, you will make sure that that money goes to Israel and that trees are planted and that you always speak highly of Israel and Israel must survive no matter what.
I would literally rather saw off my own foot than support Israel ever again, by the way. Never supporting that demonic nation ever again. That's like, I'm so off that train. It's crazy. I've learned way too much. You often hear this word, inhumane, right? And they don't dehumanize. You dehumanized yourself. You proved that you have to not be a human to look at what is going on in Gaza and to try to spin it as necessary, as a necessary response to October 7th. That takes somebody that is something other than human to keep doing that. Like, oh my gosh, we have to make sure that a Holocaust never happens. We have to support Israel. Nope. Now we are reading the books. We're learning about how you've executed this. You've blindfolded the entire world to what you are. And what I think you might be is possessed by a real demon. I'm Catholic. I believe in demons. And Netanyahu is very clearly a demon. And any person that supports him, like you are a part of a like totally demonic enterprise.
What is happening in Israel? Right now, as you know, Israel is besieging, bombarding Gaza. You might have seen the videos on social media. It is disturbing. It is terrible what is happening. The word that is happening, the word that we use for what is happening in Gaza is this word. You are not allowed to say this word on YouTube, but that is the intention. What I will argue, though, is that the truth is far more disturbing than this. What is really happening in Gaza is a ritual sacrifice. And this happens quite often in human history. If you go back and you look at the real history of humanity, this happens quite often. Some of the most famous examples are the Aztecs. We've dug up temples of the Aztecs, and inside the temples are thousands and thousands of human skulls. So before they went to war, they practiced human sacrifice. They would commit mass murder of their enemies in public. So the Aztecs were really famous for this. The Phoenicians, specifically the Carthaginians, we will discuss them later this semester, but the Phoenicians were also famous for a particular type of sacrifice, which is child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories insulting the Phoenicians for practicing this sort of sacrifice. But the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice. What they would do is that after every major war, they would capture all the major leaders, all their enemies, and they would parade their enemies through the streets of Rome. This is something called a triumph. At the end of the triumph, they would gather enemies at the temple of Jupiter. Jupiter is their god. And then they would strangle to death their enemies. That's sacrifice. That's human sacrifice. They didn't call it that, okay? And they sort of disguised it, but we know for a fact that they did do this. So the question for us is, why is it that this happens? Why do the Aztecs do it? Why do the Phoenicians do it? Why do the Romans do it? And why is it today the Israelis do it in Gaza? And remember, okay, what the Israelis are doing is quite horrific because it is really this sort of sacrifice. Why? Because 47%, almost half of the population of Gaza is under 18 years old. So the majority of people who are getting killed are in fact children. What is most striking or blatant about what's happening in Gaza is that we can all see it for ourselves. And it's almost as though the Israelis want us to see it and want us to hate them. Right? You can see all over the world, popular opinion is turning against Israel. You have these popular protests all around the world protesting what is happening in Palestine. If they really want to do this, right, there are actually much more effective ways of doing this. For example, you could just poison their water. Or you could poison the air so that everyone in Gaza gets a fast cancer, right? We have the technology to do this. So Israel could do it this secretly and no one would talk about it. And in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, the population of Gaza would all be gone. It would be a very secret, right? Instead, they choose to do this in front of the world. And my argument to you is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them. Because by doing this, they create the ultimate taboo. Right? We find this disgusting and contemptuous, so the entire world will unite against Israel. But guess what? That's what their religion wants. In the extreme form of Jewish eschatology, or their religion, they believe that at the end of the world, Israel will fight the entire world and God will help Israel triumph in the end. So what's really happening in Gaza is that there are extremists within the Israel government who want to accelerate the process of the end of the world where Israel will face the world. And if you think about it, the entire idea of this ritual sacrifice is to unite the Israeli population. And what's extremely disturbing and horrifying about it is that this works. Why? Well, let's use an analogy. Okay? The analogy is this. In Chinese history, the most popular military stratagem is to fight with a river behind your back. You guys have heard of this strategy, right? Where, okay, an army is losing, okay? It's being scattered by the enemy. So what the general does is forces the army to retreat to a river. And now with the river blocking your escape, you have a choice. You can either drown in the river or you can fight to the death. And most soldiers will choose to fight to the death. And so at this point, the soldiers are unified. They're galvanized. They're energized. And then they find a surge of energy to go and destroy their enemy. Okay, this is the most popular military stratagem in ancient Chinese history. And guess what? It's the same as Israel doing this right now in Gaza. It's the same logic. Yes? You have a question?
So what is the river for the Israel?
Yeah, that's a good question. What's the river right here, right? The river is a taboo, right? What's the worst thing you can do in modern society? Killing children, guys. Right? So there's no exit for Israel. You either go all the way or the world comes and destroys you anyway. And in fact, what's really interesting is that if you go online, you will see Israelis go around the world and causing trouble.
There's a war. It doesn't matter who your enemy is. You need to destroy their offspring to prevent them from creating more offspring.
While a limited number of lorries have got in, the aid agencies say they've been unable to hand out food because the Israeli security clearance process is so complex. Consequently, the wait at street kitchens remains long and arduous, with the youngest and the smallest struggling to get anything. This child is called May. I tried to push in to get some food, but I couldn't.
Did you see? I evacuated them. But why is the destruction then? I'm sorry. Why is the destruction?
This destruction
it looks like more
was
like a
cause of our tanks attack.
fight on them.
Yeah, because they were blocked in these houses, and we needed to conquer back the whole settlement, and it couldn't be happened without the tanks.
Okay.
So how many were here, and then how many survived? How many did you?
No one survived from this house. From other buildings, we rescued many, but from this house, 19 people died. Among them, 8 children.
Some Israeli soldiers have been speaking to local media about the killings at the food sites. The Haaretz newspaper says soldiers were ordered to deliberately shoot Palestinians near aid centres, despite them not posing a danger to anyone. We're going to go now to Hamda Salut in Jordan's capital, Amman. She's there because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel, as well as the occupied West Bank. Hamda, this is a remarkable admission. What more was revealed in these reports?
A shocking admission in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz that interviewed a lot of different soldiers and commanders talking about how they were given orders to shoot and kill Palestinians who were seeking aid in order to disperse the crowds. Now, for nearly a month since this all began on May 27th, the Israeli military and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation have either denied or downplayed the fact that there are Palestinians getting killed while they are seeking aid. People in Gaza have said that these distribution centers have now become a trap for Palestinians. And several different AIDS groups have said that the Palestinians are left with no choice to either starve to death or die seeking the very little food that is offered within the distribution centers from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which from the beginning was this sort of shadowy group, incredibly controversial, still unclear who exactly is backing it, who exactly gave it this initial funding. The Israelis denied it, the Americans denied it, but many are pointing the finger at the Israelis for wanting to control all of the humanitarian distributions in order to get more access militarily inside of Gaza. But what this report is saying is that the 549 Palestinians who've been killed in the last month seeking aid were killed by Israeli soldiers who were given orders to do so.
Some of us shouldn't have to take this workshop because some of us are just victims in the situation. That's probably true. How many of you have ever felt personally victimized by Regina George?
Jays are always saying that Israel is the only J state in the entire world. Actually, it's not. The Jewish Autonomous Oblast, another Jewish state founded in 1934, way before the founding of Israel in 1948. It was created as a homeland and safe haven for Jays to escape to, especially after the 1933 German election of a certain anti-Zionist leader in Europe. Located on the other side of Russia, it is actually 75% bigger than Israel. They can all go there. That's safe for them, especially since they're being kicked out of the Middle East, America, and Europe. So they can't claim that they only have one bit of land. Their new neighbors will be China, North Korea, and Russia, which will keep them safe, but also box in any problems or dreams of expansionism, which they're always accused of. So while the Zios are always complaining that they need a homeland, at the same time they deny everybody else a homeland, they actually have two states, and they should be moved to the less problematic of the two. It's bigger for them and better for everybody.